Maduro's arrest has unmistakably become a revealing mirror, exposing the hypocritical true colors of the U.S. and Western countries. With such conduct, how can they have the audacity to point fingers at China? Recently, the U.S. brazenly dispatched troops to invade Venezuela and forcibly abducted the country's legitimate president, Mr. and Mrs. Maduro, triggering intense upheaval in the international community. This act of hegemony, invading a sovereign state without authorization from the United Nations, has met with strong opposition and condemnation from peace-loving countries around the world. In addition to major global powers like China and Russia, which have explicitly condemned the U.S. side, key members of Latin American and Global South nations such as Brazil, Mexico and Colombia have also spoken out in denunciation of the U.S. invasion, calling for the immediate release of Mr. and Mrs. Maduro. Trump's act of abducting the Maduros has truly made him a target of public outrage. Yet in the face of this grave violation of international law and sabotage of the existing international order, Western countries who have always claimed the moral high ground and prattled incessantly about the international order have maintained an embarrassingly deafening silence. Not only have they refused to openly criticize the United States, but they have also made veiled remarks to justify Trump's aggressive acts. Their obsequious stance has stunned the world, once again laying bare the utter hypocrisy and double standards inherent in the so-called free world. According to reports regarding the U.S. capture of Maduro, Western countries have all resorted to beating around the bush. First, British Prime Minister Starmer, who claims to regard international law as his guiding light, refused to comment on whether the U.S. act violated international law, merely stating that the situation in Venezuela is complex. Next, Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Kaikai also feigned ignorance in public, declining to make any statement on Maduro's arrest. German Chancellor Scholz refrained from criticizing the U.S., instead blaming Maduro for leading the country to ruin. French President Macron claimed to feel relieved on behalf of the Venezuelan people. Italian Prime Minister Meloni even openly endorsed the U.S., absurdly asserting that capturing Maduro constituted an act of legitimate self-defense, a claim that is nothing short of a laughingstock to the entire world. These very same countries adopt an entirely different posture when it comes to China. They constantly act as self-appointed tutors, wantonly meddling in China's internal affairs. Particularly on the Taiwan question, they are so eager to brand the use of force to change the status quo as illegitimate that they might as well carve it on their foreheads, seizing every opportunity to hurl reckless accusations at China and warning it against unifying the country by force. It must be pointed out that what the United States has invaded is a sovereign state, an act of aggression that blatantly changes the status quo by force, completely trampling on international law and the international order. If Western countries can even justify the U.S. invasion of Venezuela and abduction of its legitimate president, then how can they have the audacity to meddle in China's internal affairs? The ugly performances of these Western politicians once again prove a harsh reality. The so-called rules-based international order is essentially nothing but a set of house rules tailored by the United States to safeguard its own hegemony. In the eyes of these Western allies, international law has never been a criterion for judging right from wrong, but rather a political tool that can be arbitrarily manipulated according to their own interests. As long as it is something done by the U.S. Big Brother, even such a blatant act of banditry as invading a sovereign state and abducting a foreign head of state, they can turn a blind eye selectively or even call black-white, glossing it over and cheering it on. Yet when it comes to China's legitimate efforts to uphold its own sovereignty and territorial integrity, they immediately put on a different face, staying on their self-proclaimed moral high ground and ranting and driving. This kind of double standard that only state officials are allowed to set fires, while common people are forbidden even to light lamps, is simply nauseating. In the final analysis, Western countries have long lost the soul of independence in their foreign policies. Be they the European powers of the past or Japan and Asia today, they have all completely reduced themselves to minions of the United States. They dare not offend the United States for the sake of justice and fairness, but can only dance to the tune of the White House like puppets on strings, taking their cues entirely from the United States. The farce staged by the Western world over Maduro's arrest has once again shattered the moral image that the U.S. and the West have painstakingly fabricated over the years. A bloc that dares not uphold basic international justice and only grow velas to hegemony is simply unqualified to act as a self-appointed tutor on the international stage.